Surviving Sepsis is a production of the IPRO QIN-QIO.
As a fireman stationed at the Albany, New York airport, Josh Woodward knew how quickly a fire can spread, ravaging everything in its wake. But he didn't know that sepsis could spread just as rapidly and be just as deadly. A fire often starts with a small spark, and that's how Josh's battle with sepsis began. As the infection spread undetected throughout his body, it affected his vital organs and extremities. After 6 weeks in the hospital and months in a rehab center, Josh returned home as a double amputee lucky to be alive. I'm Patrick Archambault with the IPRO QIN-QIO. In this series, Josh and his wife Chelsea share their story in the hope that it will raise awareness about the danger of sepsis, the effect it can have on individuals and families, the unexpected hurdles that patients face, and the importance of resiliency and overcoming these challenges.
So there are lingering effects from the initial sepsis diagnosis, such as heart failure, kidney failure, pulmonary aspiration, all common causes of rehospitalizations. Josh, did you experience any of these things?
Yeah, out of everything I went through, I would say my heart probably took the biggest hit. I actually had a heart attack when I was on the operating table during my coma, just from my body fighting so hard against the infection. And my ejection fraction, which if you don't know what that is basically comes down to how effective is your heart at pumping out, blood, which is what it's supposed to do. The ejection fraction was significantly low. So
10%.
Yeah, 10%, which is scary. So it took a while to get it to where it needs to be. And I've been meeting with my cardiologist every year in the summer, and every year there's been improvement. Actually, our visit last year in 2023 was our best one yet. He's like, your heart is fully recovered, but we just want to keep you on these medications for another year just to give you that extra boost, So I actually had an echo done on my heart a few days ago, and I meet with my cardiologist next month to go over that, and we expect for me to be off all heart medications and everything. It's pretty amazing, but my heart has completely recovered as if nothing happened to it. So I don't know, go figure. But that's physically probably the biggest one, and then there's all sorts of other effects. Just learning how to live as an amputee, learning that fortunately, and I say fortunately because many people in my situation have it much worse. They've woken up with no limbs. People have woken up with much worse situations. But thankfully for me, I'm grateful that I can still pretty much do everything I used to do. It's just a little bit trickier, and I have to think outside the box or learn how to do it with a prosthetic. So, there's just, living as an amputee, and I've gotten pretty used to that. Getting used to going out in public, and you get the looks and the stares, and that's usually from kids, and they point and like, where's your arm? And I'm like, it's just, you get used to that and just little things. But
So some also report post-traumatic stress disorder. Is this something you experienced, and how did you care for your mental health?
Yeah, I have experienced post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't really know a whole lot about it prior to all this, and I didn't even know if it was permanent or temporary. And I would say in many cases it is permanent. It's like this tenant that now lives with you in your head rent-free, and it shows its ugly face whenever it wants to, because you don't know what's going to trigger you all the time, and you don't always know how it's going to pop up, but it shows up when it wants to. And so what you have now is you have these stages of grief, which is usually presented to us in 5 stages. And, there's denial, acceptance, bargaining, depression, and all the others. So my initial response when those would pop up is to go on the offensive and to just kind of push it away or beat it down into like, no, we're not depressed. We're not depressed. We're not angry. We're not giving into this. The issue is when you do that, you actually experience a lot of shame. And the reason that is because those stages of grief and that PTSD experience, although it's not the sum of all of who you are, it is a part of you, and it is a small part of who you are, because you wouldn't have those things if you didn't have that life experience. And so whether we like it or not, it's a part of us. And so the issue is, well, how do we combat that? Or maybe the error is in the question, not how do we combat it, but how do we cope with this? How do we live with this? And the way we do that I learned in therapy, is to, when those stages of grief pop up, you could wake up one day with the acceptance stage and feel like you got this. And then the next day you are depressed because something triggered you. So they don't always go in order. And how you handle it is you give yourself space, a limited space, a window to sit with those feelings and to sit with those emotions and to allow yourself to feel anger, not to push it away, not to kick it down or to get, offensive about it, but to allow yourself to feel those feelings, because not only is that good for you, because essentially that is you, like that's a part of you. So by pushing that away, you're actually pushing yourself down and beating yourself up. So instead, just sit with those feelings, allow yourself to process, and give yourself a window. Like if it's like 6 o'clock at night, you say, okay, it's been a rough day. What am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling anger. And instead of giving yourself shame about that, yeah, of course you're going to feel angry. You lost something that was very important to you. You lost multiple things that was important to you. If you don't feel this emotion, you're lying to yourself, and you're not honoring the thing that was lost. And, my therapist told me that, and that was a game changer for me in how I process grief and how I process PTSD. So now I have, no problem giving myself that window to just sit with those feelings. But there is a catch, because you don't want to stay there. You got to keep yourself in line. So you say, okay, we're going to give you from this time to sit with this depression, and give yourself the freedom to be sad for a little bit. But tomorrow's a new day. We're not going to wake up and continue in self-pity, because we're trying to progress. We're not going to live life looking in the rearview mirror. So it's there is a catch to it, but you have to allow yourself to feel those things when they come up.
So let's talk about the effects on caregivers of patients who have survived critical illness. Many report depressive symptoms. Chelsea, did you experience any of that, and how did you care for your own mental health?
Yes, I definitely experienced anxiety, depression, a few various mental health concerns surrounding this situation. So when we were in the hospital, there were so many highs, which might sound strange, but when you go from one day being told your husband has a 5% chance of survival, and then within a week, they're saying we might be able to take his breathing tube out soon, that's euphoria, and you feel great, and you feel very safe because there is a whole team of medical professionals surrounding him. If anything starts beeping, I don't have to deal with the beeping. They do. They're making sure that he's getting what he needs and everything. And then rehab was also a very hopeful time, learning how we're going to do this. We're watching him get stronger. Coming home, though, was really where the challenges as a caregiver set in, because suddenly I don't have a support staff of doctors and nurses explaining to me what every little thing is, what it means. He still, I think, as he mentioned, came home very sick. They basically, we don't think you'll die on the car ride home. Go home and heal. And not knowing, I missed the machines telling me that you were okay. And we both were just processing how very different our life looked now. Because before he was sick, we both had our dream careers. We were done having children. We had just got a puppy. We were living the life we always wanted since we got together. And then this completely rocked our world. And as that set in, there were times where I felt very, very low. And I would say how I worked through that was almost pulling from the hope from the hospital, just the belief that things will get better. I feel like we're both people who say this is a season often, no matter what we're going through. This is not our whole lives. This is a blip, and trying to really cement that this is not our whole life. Of course it's hard. And that didn't make it go away, but that made it so I could move into the next day and the next day and the next day. And things did get better. And that's what I try and continue to do when those negative feelings creep up, is remind ourselves how far we've come and that we came this far by having hope for the next day and that things will get better, and relying on that.
What would your advice be to others who find themselves in similar situations to yours?
Therapy. Neither one of us ever stopped going to therapy. I would leave the hospital while he was in the hospital to go to therapy. And we are 5 years out. And that is the number one best thing I can suggest to people. And I would say, if as a caregiver, I think I got sucked into, I'm the one taking care. I'm fine. I'm on my own 2 feet. You need support too. So let people help you. Let people support you. Whatever they're willing to offer, take it. They want to, whatever they have, take it, and you'll be able to give it back to them at some point. Again, it's a season. It's all a season.
It is. Yeah. Therapy is, like, to echo what she said, I agree 100%. And for those that are out there who maybe have heard that suggestion and you just feel like talking is not your thing, maybe you're just not comfortable talking, half the battle most of the time is just showing up. Mm-hmm. Like there's weeks where I have a lot to talk about, and then there's weeks like the past month, past few weeks has been pretty good, and therapy sessions have been just kind of mellow, which is a good thing. Like it's kind of like going to the gym. Like sometimes you just gotta show up and do what you know you're supposed to do, and it all pays off. It really does. I've been in therapy for like 7 years now, and sometimes we'll just go back and look on things, and my therapist will put it in perspective, and I'll be like, wow, look how much better I've gotten at coping. And if you're married too, it makes you better for your partner, because and that's actually how it started. Yeah. We went to marriage counseling, and then did that for year and a half, and then we kind of just broke off and saw him individually. Yeah. So it makes you better for the people around you too.
Surviving Sepsis is a production of the IPRO QIN-QIO. Tune in to future episodes to hear more of Josh and Chelsea's story. Special thanks to Josh and Chelsea Woodward. Producer-host Patrick Archambault. Executive producer Teresa Jacobellis. Executive producer Sarah Butterfield. Video recording and editing Louis Cerritos. This material was prepared by the IPRO QIN-QIO, a Quality Innovation Network quality improvement organization, under contract with the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, an agency of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. Views expressed in this material do not necessarily reflect the official views or policies of CMS or HHS, and any reference to a specific product or entity herein does not constitute endorsement of that product or entity by CMS or HHS.